it comes into a being, I don't really care. They're gonna bring it back to us to approve it. That's their job to figure out how it's gonna work.
Councilor Bonstill's totally disagreeing with that. I'd like to hear what we need to do.
I think you missed my point. I'm not talking about staff coming back to us with a budget and saying we have this much money, these are the, I'm talking about the services as a municipality.
You're saying exactly the same thing I just said.
No, I'm not. When we enter into agreements using public dollars with private partners, we have to be able to defend. Some of these agreements are not defensible. I can't defend the wellness center to people in the North End. We don't have
staff running any cheaper?
No, it's not the point. You're missing my point. You're missing my point. If you agree on a service, then you have to be able to justify that service. Why does Forrest get that service? Arcona does not. Port Franks does not. Grand Bend does not. That's what I'm talking about. That is our job, sir. Because our job...
Build me an arena in Forest or in Arcona, and I will gladly put the service in Arcona.
I'm not sure where that came out. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I think you need an underlying philosophy when you enter in. We can defend OMI, and that may change. As I said, I'm glad to see the policing thing on the table. We can defend a change with the OPP, saying that maybe we can do it more cost effectively. I love the idea of the city of Sarnia, the infrastructure is there. All I'm saying is when you do these things, you have to have a rationale. And so when we enter into an agreement with a service club in Grand Bend, who then is going to subcontract their service to a charitable organization in Grand Bend, that excludes all the other service providers in Lambton Shores that may want to avail themselves of cash. Now you're on a slippery slope, because are you going to tell them no? So all I'm saying is when we get into these partnerships, some are easy to defend, some are very commonsensible. But I think some of them need to have an underlying philosophy that says if there's a service there and we agree it's a need, and it is consistent and fair across the board, and we can deliver it this way, that's all I'm saying, that's fine. But I think you have to defend why you spend dollars in some area. And that is our job.
The thing that is hard for me to comprehend here in this argument is that all of the municipalities have access to the same service.
Yeah.
All of them can come and use the Y for the same deal. So, you know, I'm not sure where the problem is. And I know that people from Arcona and Port Franks come and walk in the track, so if they come and walk the track, why couldn't they use a Y? It's available to everyone.
We're looking at this as 5 different areas when we need to start looking at it as Lambton Shores and everybody's getting the same service. Councillor Underwood for, sorry John.
Yeah. I think we're focusing just a little bit too much on the dollars and cents side of things as profit and an output versus social profit, which is ultimately what we're here for. And I understand, I don't want to tie it down to what recreational facilities are available in one area and not in another. But I think what it comes down to is we have to have some sort of process of thought and not just, we do it different every single time, I get that. But we have to be able to define and defend the need for where we see it. And if there is a need in one area, we have to be able to look at the needs across the whole municipality, be it whatever. Recreational facilities, be it something for nursing, be it something for dredging, be it something, whatever. There's a need in that area, we respond. And it's not just dollars and cents. The reason we do it originally, the reason we look at it, is because there's a social need. That's what we're here for. We're political animals, right? We're not businessmen and all the rest, and everybody wants to compare us to a business, but it's not. Okay, we're here for the good of the community and the people that live within it, and we do it in the most efficient manner we can, most efficient way we possibly can. How we're going to do that, now we're talking philosophical, in the direction of where do we decide, or how do we decide what is a need and what isn't a need. Once we do that, we give it to staff. And staff decides on how the best way for us to do that. And we're saying, should we have equal, maybe, weight upon going public-private, or straight public, or straight private? That comes back from staff. I agree with that. Our job is to be able to identify a need and whether or not we meet these needs so we can justify these needs. I think that's what Councillor Bond is still
Thank
saying.
you.
I understand Councillor Cook's point, which is, well, once we do that, once we identify a need, they go out and try to find the most fiscally responsible way of doing it. I think the question philosophically is, how do we decide the need? Is that where I'm at? This is what I'm trying to figure out this whole thing, because it is a little bit vague when we're talking about the public-private partnerships. No?
Councillor Russell?
See my stomach's running there, so.
To go to Councillor Underwood's point about need, I think the need is defined in the municipal act and what we do. We sometimes take on more things beyond the scope of what maybe the normal needs are, and that's a choice of council if we decide to do that. But I think we go back to Councillor Cook's point about the budget. John points out on page 4 that once council determines that it wishes to contract out a service, and I think there's the salient point. Right now, we determine as council that we want to contract something out. We want to put our P's, right? We determine it here, and I don't think it's institutionalized within the staff business unit review process unless there's a, I've been told in the last 2 years many times, well, council didn't instruct staff to do it physically. And physically for us, that's by resolution. So until we do that, John has pointed it out a couple times to me, and he's correct. This is the will of council to proceed further on a subject. So when it comes to the budgeting, if we determine a need, there's many ways of doing it. John's pointing out that in fact, if the historical way of dealing with the need has been, unless there's been a specific change to that policy by council, staff is not going to suddenly go down a road because the policy is not in place. So contrary to what Councillor Cook is saying, I think physically, he's correct. That's the way we want it to be, but if we don't give the staff all the tools to proceed in that direction, then in fact that doesn't happen.
There you go. Councillor Scott?
If we don't know how it is we got to where we are, then how can we proceed with what we want to do? So, for example, if we go back and we choose one of these things, let's just look at solid waste management. If we don't know the historical data, and I'm not asking for every bylaw and every little thing, although maybe I am, I don't know. But if we don't understand how it got to the way it is, and we're being questioned on what is happening with it, we can't discuss it. I'm not asking to run staff, I'm not asking to be staff, or I would have applied for a job in the municipality's office. I wouldn't have ran for council. What I'm asking for is to understand the rationale of how we got to the point we're at. If it still makes sense, that's great. If it isn't, we as council need to determine what the process is for the future. This is historical stuff. This is stuff that we've had in place. It's kind of like hearing about the highway. All of a sudden it's our responsibility. I didn't know that. I've been under the understanding that we couldn't do anything because the government was supposed to handle it. If we don't understand the rationale, we can't understand what the processes are. And I'm going to go back to the fact that we never had any training or anything in the beginning, and this should have been part of it as it came up. That John can do every report he wants, but if the rationale or the concept isn't explained so that we understand where it came from or how the historical value is, then we can't move forward on it in a regulated way. So if solid waste management still works, then I don't want to touch it. If what they're doing is great, that's fine. But if people are perceiving that it isn't working properly, then we need to go back and look at it. And we can't go back and look at it if we don't have a discussion on it.
Deputy Mayor Day?
So, I mean, Martin does make an interesting point there with the concept of need. However, the challenge is trying to define anything recreational as a need. But we spend a lot on recreation, right? And it does enhance our lives, it's nice, but it's not, none of it's a need. But we are spending money on recreation in every area of our municipality, from splash pads to trails to whatever else, right? And the council the day determined that